Hey everybody, Milton Davis here. I'm happy for you guys to come and check me out. Tonight, I'm going to be reading a excerpt from my story, The Monsters of Mena Ngai, from Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda. Before I read the story, I'd like to give you guys a little background about how I came up with this story. When I was contacted by Jesse Holland to submit a story for the anthology, we were given certain parameters to work on. One was the fact that the stories had to come from the Marvel Universe, and there were already a lot of authors who had submitted stories and had already submitted stories about particular characters. And so I was given some ideas. And one of the ideas, of course, was to to look at some of the different other people. But as I started doing my research, and I had to do research, was because, to be quite honest, I wasn't very familiar with the Black Panther comic book canon. So as I was doing the research, I came across the name of Bashenga, and it suddenly caught my interest because me being a sword and soul writer, I like to write stories that take place in pre-colonial African history, and I discovered that Bashenga was actually the first Black Panther, which meant that I have the opportunity to like get back into the background of Black Panther and kind of come up with some ideas of the development of the Panther clan. Now the story that I based my story on was actually came from Black Panther #7, and the name of that one particular story was "Doom is the Song of the Drums." And in this story, T'Challa was on an adventure with this guy by the name of Mr. Little. And during that adventure, he basically told Mr. Little the story of Bashenga, which started with the beginning of the, I guess to say, the vibranium mountain coming down as a satellite, and showing how the vibranium basically mutated people, and how eventually the Panther clan was able to gain control of the area and actually gain control of the vibranium and get control of the area as well. And so it was a briefly told story, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to take that story and expand on it? And more I looked into it, the more I liked it, and my sword and soul radar went up, and I said, yeah, this is the story that I want to tell. This is the one I want to talk about. My inspiration actually came from a couple of places. One of them was when you look at the geographical position of where Wakanda is, you see that Wakanda was in contact with a lot of amazing East African civilizations. If you put Wakanda in the geographical area where it should be, you see that they would have had contact with Kush, with Kemet / Egypt, with Aksum, with Punt, with Abyssinia. You know, all these different African kingdoms that existed in that area during that time. It would also lead you to believe that the Wakandans, like the other people in this area, had a written language, because the African civilizations in those areas were literate civilizations, from hieroglyphics to actually the Kush and the Nubians having their own script, and of course the Abyssinians having their script. So there actually would be a Wakanda script, and so that was another exciting thing about it. And I could imagine, the Wakandans, chronicling their history, starting off with papyrus and advancing as, their history advanced. And so somewhere in the main city of Wakanda, there's this amazing archive that reaches back to the time of Kush, and and chronicles the history of the Black Panthers from that point on. And so, like I said, the more I started researching it, the more excited I got about it. But anyway, that's where my story came from. That's one of the inspirations for my story. The other inspiration was actually a empire from from West Africa, called Kanem Bornu. Now, Kanem Bornu basically occupied parts of northern Nigeria and Chad and that Mali area. So the thing about it was that, and I want to show you this book. There's a chronicle of the rulers of Kanem Bornu. They were called the Safawa clan, the Safawa dynasty. And this book right here is called the Diwan. And the Diwan actually chronicles all the leaders, all the emperors of the Safawa dynasty of Kanem Bornu from the beginning of the empire to the end, which is one of the longest surviving dynasties, not just in Africa, but in the world. It lasted over 700 years, 761 years to be exact. And when I started thinking about that, this was like one of my main inspirations for the story. So that's enough talking. Give me just a few minutes to locate my story. I should have had it marked out already, and I actually did, but then I wanted to show you guys the front cover, so I lost my page. So I'm not going to read the whole story because I want you to go out and buy this book. It's an amazing book. Some amazing, I'm like almost like a who's who of black speculative fiction authors contributed to this book. And I know a lot of the authors in this book. I respect all of the authors in this book. And people who have already read these stories, and read the book, can tell you that it's an amazing book, and it's something that you should have in your collection. Not only if you're a Black Panther fan, but also if you're just a black speculative fiction fan. So I'm going to stop running my mouth here. I'll read you an excerpt from my story called "The Monsters of Mena Ngai." Chief Gakure jumped from his bed, grabbing his shield and spear when the wailing began. His wife and children woke as well, startled by his actions. "What is it?" Njoki, his wife asked. "Probably a Simba attacking the herd," Gakure said. Njoki picked up her spear and shield as well. She turned to Gaithu, their eldest son. "Run to the village and get the others," she said. "Tell them a Simba has come." "Yes, Mama." He grabbed his knife, then fled the hut. "Mukami, watch your brother and sister," Gakure said to the second eldest daughter. "Do not leave the hut." Mukami nodded. "Yes, Baba." Gakure and Njoki hurried to the cattle pen. Together they had amassed one of the largest herds in their village, if not the entire land. They were not about to lose their wealth to the hunger pains of a stray Simba. When they reached the pen, their anxiety increased. This was not the first time a hungry predator had invaded their holding, but there was something strange about the cattle's behavior. Gakure expected to see the herd running about and pushing at the fence, but instead the bovines stood still as they wailed. They were almost to the gate when one of his largest bulls sailed through the air toward them. "Move!" Gakure shouted. He shoved Njoki away. The bull crashed to the ground near Gakure, its long horns tearing his shield away and raking his arm. He yelled in pain, dropping his spear and grabbing his wound. Njoki rushed to his side. "Husband!" she shouted. Gakure's eyes were not on her. He stared at the pen in fear. Njoki looked up to see the source of her husband's terror. A thing in the shape of a person loomed over the cattle, a misshapen giant unlike anything she'd seen. It threw back its head and yelled before jumping from the pen, landing beside the broken bull. But Njoki did not run in fear. Every person in her tribe was a warrior. She stood between her husband and the monstrosity, her shield and spear raised. Gakure stood beside her, his spear lifted over his head with his good hand. They whispered to the ancestors who they would soon join, asking for the strength to battle what stood before them. Shouts rose from behind them as the other villagers arrived. The monster glanced at them, then emitted another yell. It grabbed the bull's legs and threw it over his shoulders as if it was a broken doll. With another cry, it bounded into the bush. Njoki lowered her shield and spear. Gakure dropped his weapon and fell to his knees, grabbing his wound again. Gaithu was the first to them, falling to his knees before his injured Baba. Njoki tossed her weapons aside and briefly hugged her family before tending to Gakure's wound. "What was that, Baba?" Gaithu asked. "I don't know," Baba replied, "but I know where it came from." The others gathered close to him. Their healer, Gatimu, knelt. "Once again, Mena Ngai curses us," he said. Gatume laid his hand on Gakure's shoulder. "What will you do?" "The only thing I can do," Gakure replied. "I will send for Bashenga and the Panther clan." "There is no need for that." The village folks turned their head to the unfamiliar voice. A group of unknown warriors emerged from the bush, following a man who stood at least a torso taller than the tallest man Gakure had ever seen. "I am Oboro," the man said. Oboro reached behind him and took an object from one of his warriors. He tossed the thing toward Gakure. It hit the ground and rolled to the wounded warrior's feet. It was the monster's head. Gakure leaned forward to get a closer look before he looked at Obore. "Are you from the Panther clan?" he asked. Obore spat. "No. Our people come from beyond the mountains. You no longer need to put your trust in warriors that are too far away to save you from the dangers that lurk within the shadows of the mountain. We will protect you." Bashinga faced off against a dozen of his best warriors in the training circle. His opponents wielded blunt swords and spears, but that would not stop the pain they could inflict without breaking his skin. Bashinga, the Panthers clan's best warrior and leader, carried no weapons. He crouched, his muscle legs taut as he turned with the warriors to keep them before him. When they attacked, it would be face to face as warriors should. But in the real world, advantage always trumped honor. The drummers played and the fight began. A pair of thick arms appeared at Bashanga's side, then pinned his arms against his body. Bashinga threw his head back, smashing it against the unknown attacker's nose. He pitched his body backwards, pushing the warrior down and falling on top. The warrior's arms flew wide on impact, releasing Bashinga. Bashinga rolled backward off the warrior and came to his feet in time to meet the other's charge. He ran at them and jumped, his bare foot striking the shield of the closest warrior and forcing him into the others. Bashinga caught the spear aimed at his ribs, wrenching it out of the warrior's hands and throwing it into the face of the warrior behind him. The warrior dodged the spear, but fell to Bashanga's elbow, smashing into his jaw. The attack became a confused melee, Bashinga working his way through the warriors as he used his feet, hands, elbows, and knees to fight his attackers. When the drummers finally played the cadence ending the training, only Bashinga stood, the other warriors groaning as they rubbed their wounds. Inspecting his body, Bashinga frowned. Although he sported few bruises, some would have been crippling wounds had the warriors' weapons been real. He glanced at the defeated fighters. Some of them smiled back at him, but others studied him with blank faces. Every one of them was a potential challenger for his position. They would return to their homes, analyzing the fight and seeking advantages in their next encounter. Though they were loyal to him, they were not his friends. They would never be. Bashinga walked back to his home in the center of the village. The people cleared a path for him, nodding in respect. Bashinga returned their attention, stopping to play with the children along the way. He took his position seriously, but not so seriously that he did not have time to share some joy with his people. He was approaching his home when he heard his name called. He turned to see Chipu, the elders' herald. "What is it, Chipu?" he said. "The elders request your presence. There is trouble at the mountains." Bashinga's eyes went wide. He ran past Chipu and through the village until he reached the meeting tree. The elders congregated there, dressed in their ceremonial robes. Their faces were not pleasant. "I came as soon as I received the word," Bashinga said. "What is going on at the mountain?" Elder Chana, the matriarch of the elders, used her staff to stand. "For months, we have not received any tribute from the villages near the mountain, despite our alliance and our agreement to protect them from harm," she said. "We suspected they had decided they no longer needed our protection. We sent our messengers to discover the truth. They returned with disturbing news." "The monsters have returned," Elder Kimbo said. The villages are being devastated by their attacks." Bashinga glared at the elders. "Why am I just hearing about this?" "It is not for you to question our knowledge and when we share it," Elder Kimbo said calmly. "I will gather my warriors and set out immediately," Bashinga replied. "There's no need for that," Elder Chani said. "The northern tribes have found a new champion." "Impossible," Bashinga blurted. "There are no warriors in the valley that can handle the monsters except the Panther clan." "Apparently there is one," Elder Mana said. "He calls himself Oboro. Not only has he defeated the monsters, he claims the mountain is his." "We will depart in a week after we construct more weapons and consult with Bass," Bashinga said. "I will confront this Oboro and take back what is ours." "We must discuss this," Elder Mana said. "Do we wish to be saddled with this burden?" The mountain is ours, Bashinga said. It was given to us by Bast. You all know how valuable it is. We also know the cost of protecting it, Elder Kama said. We are willing to pay that cost, Bashinga responded. Are we? Bashinga could see where this discussion was leading. The elders had summoned him once they had made up their minds. This meeting was only meant to give him their decision. I will speak no more of this until I have returned from the mountain, Bashinga said. We have not given you permission to go, Elder Chani said. I did not ask you, Bashinga replied. And that's an excerpt from my story, The Monsters of Mena Ngai. Of course, it is in Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda. Go get yours today. I hope you guys enjoyed the reading of the excerpt. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if anybody has any questions about the book, about any projects, other projects I'm currently working on, or anything like that. Well, since I don't see any questions, I hope you guys enjoyed the reading. I hope you go out and get the book. Like I said, it's a great collection of stories, and I know you'll enjoy it. And if you want to find out anything more about my writing or what I'm doing, you can check out my website at www.mvmediaatl.com. I'm going to type this in the comment section. So you can check out my website. We just got a question from Carlos Lopez. The book can be purchased anywhere books are available. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. It's available everywhere. Again, thank you guys for coming. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Again, check it out. Check out Black Panther: Tales of Wakanda anywhere books are sold, and go check out my website and see what else we have in store. And I will see you guys again soon. Take care. Peace.